In 1996, there was a little girl named Kdrama who was an orphan, living with her mother in a small noodle shop named after her. Her dream was to become a scholar so that no one would look down on her. Since she lost her father at a young age, Kdrama always longed for a father figure in her life. Her mother was a victim of rape at a factory. The perpetrator was a powerful and influential man named Chu Gap-soo. He lived like a legend, forgetting about the lives he ruined and the victims he left behind. After hearing the news about Chu Gap-soo's crimes, her mother decided to seek out prosecutor Min Gi-suk to show her the tape containing evidence of his crimes, as he was still walking free. Unfortunately, her mother got into the same elevator as Chu Gap-soo, and he recognized her. It was like she walked right into his trap. Kdrama waited for her mother to come back from the market, but she never did. Kdrama put up missing posters and searched for her mother. She had lost her father, and now her mother. Years later, Kdrama became a high school student. Every night, she dreamt about her mother leaving her. She would call out for her in her sleep, but her mother would never return. 20 years later, Kdrama became a beautiful and experienced prosecutor at the 4th Law Office in Siam. She was known for her tenacity, able to break down even the most stubborn suspects. She was always cheerful and full of life. However, she had to constantly avoid her boss, a lecherous man who was always making unwanted advances. One night, on her way home, Kdrama encountered a man in black standing near the entrance of her apartment building. Assuming he was another pervert, she warned him off with some intimidating words. Curiosity got the better of her, so she followed him to see what he was up to, only to find out he was her neighbor. She was so embarrassed that she didn't know what to do. Back in her apartment, she couldn't stop thinking about the gaze of reporter Han, the lecherous boss she had encountered. The next morning, she received news that reporter Han had filed a sexual assault complaint against the boss. The investigator assigned to the case was Yoo-wook, a newly graduated prosecutor. He was a man of integrity, focused on justice and truth, determined to exonerate the innocent and bring the guilty to justice. He was the man in black that Kdrama encountered in the elevator. They didn't leave a good impression on each other. Kdrama approached Yoo-wook about the Director O case, apologizing for her outburst the night before, blaming it on too much alcohol. Yoo-wook questioned her about what happened between reporter Han and Director O the previous night, but she claimed she couldn't remember anything. Yoo-wook reminded her about what she said in the elevator, how she mentioned encountering perverts that night, confirming that she witnessed Director O assaulting reporter Han. Yoo-wook, understanding the psychology of victims, recognized that Kdrama had experienced something similar. This was the reason for her extreme reaction to seeing him. His reasoning was precise and his words were concise, which Kdrama found compelling. Yoo-wook, believing he had his prey hooked, took out a notepad to record her testimony. But Kdrama changed her story, claiming she was too drunk and couldn't remember anything. She then left. Back in her office, Kdrama's colleague told her about Jin-wook's background. He was a former psychiatrist, always at the top of his class in law school, and was a top scorer on the entrance exam. Kdrama understood why he could so easily get inside her head. However, she believed that the tactics he used with criminals wouldn't work on her. Director O summoned Kdrama to his office. He offered to consider her for promotion, which was something she had been waiting for. She played the role of the innocent kitten, pretending to have no memory of the events. But he wasn't satisfied. He demanded that she threaten or make some kind of deal with reporter Han to stop her from pursuing the case. In the face of the law, even a tiger would have to become a kitty. Kdrama visited reporter Han, who was raising a young child, and told her to drop the charges. This resulted in a painful slap from reporter Han. Kdrama knelt down and told Han to hit him. He told her to take out her anger on him like she would on Director O. Han didn't understand why Kdrama was doing this. Only Kdrama understood that Director O would never apologize. For Kdrama and Han to survive, Kdrama wanted Han to drop the lawsuit. Even if Han lost the case in a year or 10 years, the outcome would be the same. After reaching an agreement with Han, Kdrama went to a convenience store, bought a can of beer, drank it in one go, and sighed. The next morning, at the Supreme Prosecutor's office, the trial between Han and Director O took place. He apologized to her for the sake of appearances, and everyone urged Han to drop the lawsuit. Yoo-wook presented evidence of Director O forcibly kissing Han. The high-ranking authorities all told Yoo-wook not to take it too far. Just then, Kdrama entered the courtroom and declared that she would testify about what happened that day. She recounted how Han went to Director O's office, and he touched her thigh 3 times, touched her body twice, and kissed her cheek once without her consent. Han felt uncomfortable and ran to the bathroom, but Director O followed her and forcibly kissed her again. Han pushed him away and stepped on his foot. There were bruises on his foot, proving her account. Director O had promised to put Yi-dum on the special task force, but he broke his promise. Therefore, Yi-dum couldn't let him get away with it. She taught him a lesson and threatened him before leaving. This old, lecherous man deserved this outcome. As Yi-dum walked out, Yi-wook called her back. He said he thought she was a good person and hoped to see her again under better circumstances. Yi-dum coldly replied that it would be better if they didn't meet again. They then went their separate ways. After confronting Director O, Yi-dum was transferred to the Female Crime Prevention Association. Coincidentally, Yi-wook was also assigned to the same place. Yi-wook greeted Yi-dum cheerfully, but she didn't seem enthusiastic. Fate brought them together in the same office. Yi-dum was annoyed because she had offended the prosecutor and was sent to this place. She thought she would never escape from here. Yi-wook, on the other hand, was very happy because he volunteered to come here, not because he had offended anyone. Yi-dum found Yi-wook crazy because no one wanted to work here. Min Gi-suk, the chief prosecutor, overheard their conversation. Yi-dum and Yi-wook were both under the supervision of Chief Prosecutor Min Gi-suk. She was the one who had asked Yi-dum's mother to go to the hospital to get the cassette tape, but she hadn't met Yi-dum's mother yet. Min Gi-suk called Yi-dum to have a private conversation with her. Yi-dum knew she had spoken out of line and apologized to the chief prosecutor. Min Gi-suk said that Yi-dum had the audacity to embarrass her superiors during the disciplinary hearing, so she should have been prepared for the consequences. If Yi-dum didn't like her job, she could resign. Yi-dum turned pale when she heard this. Her goal was to retire, so how could she resign? Yi-dum decided to take Min Gi-suk's words as encouragement. She thanked the chief prosecutor and left. Yi-dum felt unlucky on her first day of work. She was rude and unharmonious with her colleagues. That day, a new case came in. A university student had intentionally raped a female professor. Yi-dum and Yi-wook were assigned to this case. Yi-dum went to find the victim and set up a camera to record her statement. The victim said the perpetrator was drunk on hard liquor that night. He looked completely out of it and scary. She tried to leave, but Yi-wook pushed her back onto the chair. That was when he started everything. The perpetrator held her arms with one hand and began assaulting her with the other. She felt pain and humiliation. The perpetrator said that women from wealthy families would never understand unless they were taught a lesson. She told him to stop or she would sue him. Suddenly, the perpetrator choked her. Meanwhile, Yi-wook was interviewing the perpetrator, Gu-sung. He was very flustered and kept pulling his hair out, denying everything he had done. Yi-wook urged him to tell him what happened. Gu-sung had borrowed money to pay for his tuition fees and was struggling as a student. He had asked the professor to review his paper. If he didn't graduate, he would die. The professor had crushed Gu-sung's hope, calling his essay trash, just like him. Gu-sung, enraged by her words, was consumed by the urge to kill. But he walked away, never intending to take advantage of the professor. He maintained that he wanted to kill her, not rape her. Yi-wook struggled with the case. The victim claimed there was a perpetrator, while the accused denied it. Yi-dum, on the other hand, believed the professor's account. Yi-wook argued that Gu-sung and the professor were too different to have a random encounter. He explained his perspective on the case to Yi-dum, but she stopped him, wanting to see the evidence. Witnesses can lie, but evidence cannot. Yi-wook wanted to reclaim the apartment Yi-dum was renting, as it was his. His current residence belonged to his mother. Yi-dum, naturally, wanted to continue renting because the apartment was affordable, and she had been living there for a long time. Yi-wook refused, leaving Yi-dum to find a new place. Yi-wook noticed something wrong with the video footage and asked Yi-dum to review it with him. Together, they realized that Gu-sung had dropped his phone when leaving the professor's room. He rushed back to retrieve it. Further investigation revealed that he was on the phone with his girlfriend at the time of the incident. Yi-dum and Yi-wook went to find another witness. They discovered that Gu-sung was actually a third-gender individual, in a relationship with a male doctor. After obtaining the doctor's phone, Yi-dum played the recording of the professor's seductive voice. It was irrefutable evidence, clearing Gu-sung of rape charges and leading to an investigation into the professor. Gu-sung, afraid of facing the consequences, worried that once the investigation concluded, everyone would think he was gay. Jin-wook encouraged him to take a positive perspective, emphasizing the importance of bringing the truth to light to clear his name. At the temporary court hearing, the professor pleaded with the judge to prove her innocence. She argued that if they charged her in public, she would want to die every day. Her dramatic tears and cries appeared to be her last chance to express her grief. Exiting the hearing, she revealed her true face, threatening Gu-sung with a life of misery. Unbelievable. The day of the trial arrived. Jin-wook stood on the podium, recounting the incident and presenting crucial evidence to accuse the professor, but her lawyer dismissed it all. Yi-dum then took the stand, urging Gu-sung to reveal the truth, as it was the only way to convict the professor. The lawyer, however, presented evidence to incriminate Gu-sung, publicly announcing that he was gay. Gu-sung, overwhelmed, lost control and choked the lawyer, leading to his removal from the courtroom. This incident allowed Yi-dum to present the recording of the phone call to the court. This irrefutable evidence proved the professor's guilt and was a decisive blow against the old goat. The trial concluded with a year in prison and a 3-year suspended sentence for the professor. Jin-wook, running up to Yi-dum, revealed that she had informed the lawyer about Gu-sung's sexual orientation. Although they had won, Gu-sung was hurt. Yi-dum didn't care. She was a prosecutor, not a lawyer. Jin-wook questioned her sanity. Their argument was interrupted by Min Jae-suk, who wanted to know how she obtained the recording and why she knew about Gu-sung's sexuality. Cho Gap-soo, now a parliamentary candidate, interrupted, praising Yi-dum's abilities but reminding his lawyer to be wary. The lawyer, still stinging from the defeat, vowed never to forget the trap Yi-dum had set. Back at the office, the chief prosecutor reprimanded Yi-dum, demanding a report and ordering her to leave. Furious, Yi-dum went out for a beer. Leaving the supermarket, she ran into Yi-wook. He wanted to talk, but she refused. She wasn't interested in discussing the prosecution or the trial. Yi-wook, however, wanted to know when she planned to move. The sudden mention of moving made Yi-dum uncomfortable. Yi-wook urged Yi-dum to move houses soon so he could move in, because his mother was also demanding the house back. After saying this, he handed back the bag of beer to Yi-dum and walked away quickly. Back at her own house, Yi-dum opened the missing person report of her mother again. All these years, Yi-dum still didn't know where her mother had gone or what she had been doing, and why she didn't contact her. Yi-dum remembered what her classmates said about her mother running away. The police also believed that her mother had run away. Only Yi-dum knew that her mother had gone missing. That night, Yi-dum ate a lot of noodles and drank a lot of beer. She laughed 1 minute and cried the next. She was in turmoil, but still forced herself to be strong. The next day, there was a different case, the 18-plus film case. The victim was a 30-year-old kindergarten teacher, Gong Na-jing, who was getting married the following month. The suspect was Sang-gon Kim, who had broken up with the victim 2 years ago. The suspect also considered himself a victim, as his face was clearly visible in the videos. Yi-dum volunteered to investigate this case. Even though she had been scolded yesterday, she was determined to make up for her mistake today, so that the victim wouldn't have to cry again. Yi-dum asked Yi-wook to meet up and told him she wanted him to apologize to her for calling her crazy in court yesterday. Yi-wook also wanted her to apologize to the victim for exposing his homosexuality. Yi-dum kicked Yi-wook's leg hard. For a prosecutor like her, a victory was an apology. Yi-dum turned and walked away, not forgetting to tell Yi-wook to return her house deposit. Yi-dum and Yi-wook began to investigate. They both questioned the victim, Gong Na-jing. The victim didn't know that the videos still existed and didn't think the suspect would still keep them. After all, no one would be crazy enough to keep such sensitive videos of themselves. Yi-dum and Yi-wook discovered that the suspect had uploaded a video of another girl. The second victim was a hairdresser named Oh Min-dung. The second victim was pregnant, and she had changed her name and moved. Just like the first victim, both girls had been asked by the suspect to make videos. Initially, they agreed for fun, but later both realized that he was a pervert and broke up with him. The second victim's video was also released a month before her wedding. Oh Min-dung refused to testify in court. She had spent all her savings to delete that video. Now, just the mention of it made her sick. She felt scared just hearing the name of that pervert. Min-dung also felt sorry for Na-jing, but she wouldn't go anywhere. She also hoped that they wouldn't look for her anymore. The suspect, Sang-gon Kim, was taken to the interrogation room. Gon Kim also revealed what he thought. He wasn't stupid enough to post happy videos of him and his girlfriend. If he was prosecuted, he would still be in prison for 5 years. It sounded convincing, didn't it? Yi-dum began to question him. "Don't you want revenge?" Sang-gon Kim boldly said that he was just a suspect. Why was Yi-dum questioning him like a criminal? "Did you make so little money that you look down on me as a pervert who likes posting 18+ videos?" Yi-wook showed the photo of Oh Min-dung. The prosecution had enough evidence to prove that Sang-gon Kim was the one who uploaded the video. He seemed unafraid of Yi-dum and Jin-wook's words, even daring to challenge them. Yi-dum and Yi-wook, along with their team, went to Sang-gon Kim's house to collect evidence of his crime. His roommate, who was at home, had cut off all the internet connections and destroyed the evidence. He even dared to throw the computer to the ground to break it. Yi-dum and Yi-wook collected all the USBs, memory cards, and hard drives containing the 18+ videos of the pervert. 48 hours later, he was released. Yi-dum met Sang-gon Kim and boldly told him that she would try her best to find evidence to put him in prison. It was this provocative statement from Yi-dum that angered the suspect. That night, he snuck into Yi-dum's house and installed a camera in her bathroom. He sat on the stairs, looking at his computer and smiling. At this time, Yi-dum heard the sound of the lock of her house being unlocked, indicating someone was breaking in. She took a frying pan, turned off the lights, and hid behind the wall. She raised the frying pan, and fortunately, it was Yi-wook. She collapsed to the ground. As Yi-wook helped her up, she asked him if he was the one who put the camera in her bathroom. Of course, it wasn't him. Yi-dum and Yi-wook called the police to remove all the cameras that Sang-gon Kim had installed. There were about 6 or 7 of them. After they removed the cameras, the police also received a call that he had turned himself in. At the police station, Sang-gon Kim said that he was enraged by Yi-dum interrogating him like a criminal, and he snuck into her house. At the same time, Yi-dum went to the police station and knelt down to apologize to Sang-gon Kim. Later, she threatened him that if he continued to find evidence to accuse him, he would expose her videos. Yi-dum couldn't believe what was happening. Tears welled up in her eyes. When she went to the security room, she wanted to disappear from the earth. He had seen her naked while she was showering. She rushed to the bathroom with Sang-gon Kim's tablet. Yi-dum didn't dare to open her video. What should she do now? Yi-wook arranged to meet Yi-dum on the rooftop. He wanted to get the video because it was evidence to convict Sang-gon Kim. Yi-dum was very uncomfortable because she didn't want anyone to see the video. The criminal Sang-gon Kim hired lawyer Hgo Jang Kai-eung to defend him. Sang-gon Kim was very happy because he had the video of Yi-dum. He believed that she wouldn't dare to present the evidence, which was her nude video. The despicable lawyer Hgo Jang Kai-eung agreed to defend Sang-gon Kim because she wanted revenge on Yi-dum for setting her up earlier. On Yi-dum's side, they were stuck because the security room couldn't recover the original video, only the audio. On the day of the closed-door trial, lawyer Kai-eung presented evidence to prove that the pervert Gon Kim was innocent. She also said that Yi-dum entered the defendant's house without permission. The court also found that Yi-dum entered Gon Kim's house without permission, which was illegal. Therefore, the victory seemed to be leaning towards the criminal. The judge asked Yi-dum if she wasn't going to present the video. There would be no convincing evidence. The prosecution, in conjunction with the security room, locked Yi-dum in a room to search for the tablet. They couldn't find it, so Jin-wook had to release Yi-dum. He took her to eat and told her to hand over the evidence. Knowing that no one wants to be a victim, Yi-dum, with a clear mind, went to find the tablet to get the video. She didn't expect that her video had been deleted because Gon Kim had set it up to delete itself after a certain amount of time. It was unbelievable that this guy was so despicable. The day of the public trial had arrived. Min-dung, the second victim, got up and spoke first. Min-dung didn't want anyone to go through what she had. She also hoped that the judge would sentence Gon Kim appropriately. Kai-eung stood up and questioned Min-dung, asking if she had agreed to be filmed by the defendant. Min-dung answered yes. Kai-eung pressed on and asked Min-dung a series of uncomfortable questions. Then, she arbitrarily concluded that there was no evidence to prove that Gon Kim posted the video. She even said that the recovered video on the defendant's computer was missing. Based on the above, she concluded that the charges against Sang-gon Kim were unfounded. Combining the charge of breaking and entering, Prosecutor Yi-dum and Yi-wook brought out 2 bags of cameras that Gon Kim had installed. Yi-wook went over to ask the defendant if he wanted to install hidden cameras to record the prosecutor's videos and make the prosecutor ashamed in front of everyone. Gon Kim admitted everything Yi-wook said, except that he didn't record Yi-dum. Gon Kim also said that when his recordings with his girlfriend were leaked, he was also very hurt. However, Yi-dum just accused Gon Kim of being sick and treated him as a criminal, so he lost his mind and acted rashly. Yi-dum couldn't take it anymore. The lawyer Kai-eung and the criminal Sang Gon Kim were such great actors. It was a waste of talent if they didn't go into show business. Lawyer HGO kept demanding the video as evidence to prove her point. Yi-dum gave Prosecutor Yi-wook a look, signaling him to bring up the video as evidence. It turned out that Yi-dum had discovered that the video had been deleted, so she had cleverly copied it onto another USB drive, which would be the final piece of evidence to send the scum Sang Gon Kim to jail. Yi-dum bravely presented the video that was recorded while she was showering. Her hands were clasped together. Yi-dum was a prosecutor who had chased many cases, and she only thought about how to prove the crime and minimize the punishment. Sometimes, Yi-dum didn't consider the pain of the victim. Yi-dum, now a victim herself, finally understands the pain. She has a video that could shame her for the rest of her life and an apology to everyone she hurt in the past. Yi-dum demands the court to severely punish the defendant because he never shows remorse. After the trial, Yi-wook asks Yi-dum if she truly meant what she said. Yi-dum asks him back if people ever change. He says no, and she agrees, saying that's her answer. In the end, Sang Gon Kim gets sentenced to 3 years in prison. Although he's behind bars, he leaves Yi-dum's mind haunted. She returns home constantly feeling anxious and scared that someone is secretly recording her. She can't live like this. Yi-dum drinks beer alone on the sidewalk. Jin-wook comes and takes her home. He is kind enough to let her stay the night at his place. In the middle of the night, Jin-wook checks on her and sees Yi-dum having a nightmare about her mother. She's crying in her sleep. Jin-wook, touched by her sadness, puts his hand on her cheek. He realizes how much she must miss her mother to cry like that. At the television station, a candidate for Gap-soo is questioned by M-11 about the rape case from 30 years ago. He arrogantly claims that the prosecution investigated and cleared him. M-11 replies that the victim's family is at the station today. Hearing this, Gap-soo, terrified, frantically searches for something. He panics and grabs a glass of water, taking a big gulp. He wants to take Yi-dum back to his side, but she works under Min Jae-suk, and he fears he can't bring her back. The next case is about Choi Hein-tae, a famous doctor, who had sexual intercourse with his 10-year-old daughter. The court sentences him to 5 years in prison. When Jin-wook goes outside, he asks the prosecutor why they didn't use Choi Hein-tae's evidence to prove the case and why they made a little girl testify in court. The prosecutor pushes Jin-wook away and says a psychologist like him wouldn't understand how to win a case in court. He walks away, leaving Jin-wook there. Arai-um's mother and Arai-um are crying. Arai-um will only be in middle school in 5 years. The scene shifts to the prosecutor's office. Jin-wook meets Yi-dum, looking vibrant with bright red lipstick. She's completely different from how she was yesterday. In his office, Jin-wook encounters Arai-um, who is arrested for stabbing a man, who turns out to be Choi Hein-tae, her former stepfather. The news reports that Arai-um turned herself in for stabbing him after he harassed her and her mother. Arai-um claims that during a struggle, she took a knife and stabbed her former stepfather. Choi Hein-tae is the brother-in-law of Kim Mun-sung, the candidate from the party, which sparks public outrage. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Gap-soo condemns it to appear powerful, even though he can't see the flaws in his own actions. The Women's Crime Prevention Association has another case to solve. Jin-wook takes on this case because he was Arai-um's therapist when she was young and understands what she's going through. When Jin-wook enters the interrogation room, Arai-um keeps confessing to stabbing Choi Hein-tae. Jin-wook knows she didn't do it and understands the kind of person Choi Hein-tae is. He tells Arai-um to trust him. She replies that the last time he told her to trust him, he was wrong. Those words cut him like a knife. Jin-wook wants Arai-um to trust him again. She tells him that her mother stabbed him. Choi Hein-tae made her mother depressed, requiring medication for a long time. He harassed Arai, and her mother by constantly texting and calling. He even followed Arai, If not for her mother, she would have killed him. Yi-dum and Min-jae suckwatch, noticing Jin-wook's distress. If the investigation continues, it will not benefit anyone. The chief prosecutor tells Yi-dum to replace Jin-wook in the investigation. Yi-dum meets with Choi Hein-tae, who pretends to be worried about Arai, If he really cared about her, why did he harass her mother and stab her? Choi Hein-tae says he had good intentions when he met Arai, and her mother. He went there to apologize to them. He could apologize as many times as he wanted. And then one day, Dae-um's mother texted him, asking him to come to her house. She gave him sleeping pills and then intentionally killed him. While he was still conscious, Choi Hein-tae stabbed Dae-um's mother and then ran away. Jin-wook yelled at Yi-dum, asking her if she believed him. Yi-dum presented all the evidence proving that Dae-um's mother wanted to kill Choi Hein-tae, and that Choi Hein-tae was only acting in self-defense. After Jin-wook explained everything to Yi-dum, she finally understood that Choi Hein-tae had stabbed Dae-um's mother first, and then stabbed himself, blaming the two innocent women for his actions. Yi-dum still couldn't believe everything Jin-wook said, so he went to the hospital to get a statement from Dae-um's mother. Cho Gap-soo was also putting on a show, pretending to be a grieving husband. He invited many reporters and photographers to take pictures of him while he cried, making himself look very heartbroken. He told the reporters that his wife was in a coma for 15 years due to a strange disease, and there were rumors that she was running away or gambling. He said he was waiting for his wife to wake up again because he believed in their love and it would make her wake up. Then he cried his eyes out. Cho Gap-soo told his wife that he wouldn't be able to come back for a while and asked her to just sleep like this, which would help him. Meanwhile, Jin-wook was worried about Dae-um's mother. When Dae-um went to visit her mother, she ran into Choi Hein-tae. He used harsh words to speak to her and even tried to touch her. Jin-wook arrived in time and grabbed Choi Hein-tae, taking him away. He was about to punch Choi Hein-tae in the mouth to shut him up, but someone stopped him. If not, Choi Hein-tae wouldn't even have any teeth left to eat porridge. Choi Hein-tae saw the camera and said something that made Jin-wook angry, so he punched him a few times. The fact that Jin-wook physically attacked the victim was published in the newspaper, resulting in his suspension from work for 3 months. Yi-dum came to comfort him. Jin-wook asked Yi-dum to help him get justice for Dae-um. He took Dae-um to a safe place and gave her a smart watch. He told her to press the button if anything happened, and he would be there immediately. Jin-wook and Yi-dum went to the crime scene and found a bottle of milk that Dae-um's mother had been drinking. They suspected that it might have been laced with sleeping pills. Yi-dum asked them to bring the bottle back for testing. Next, Yi-dum and Jin-wook went to Choi Hein-tae's house to examine the scene. Cho Gap-soo arranged to meet Yi-dum outside and wanted to help her by giving her secret information. He took Yi-dum to meet one of Choi Hein-tae's former cellmates. The cellmate revealed that Choi Hein-tae once had a girlfriend, but his mother wouldn't let them marry. He said that if he could, he would live with her, but if not, he would kidnap her and take her to a quiet place for the rest of their lives. The girl he wanted to kidnap was Dae-um. Yi-dum immediately told Jin-wook because Dae-um might be in danger. In the end, Choi Hein-tae successfully kidnapped Dae-um. He was very smart and threw away the watch Jin-wook gave her. He crazily changed her clothes and decorated his house to look like hers. Jin-wook remembered that Dae-um had mentioned Choi Hein-tae always followed her. Based on this, Jin-wook deduced that Choi Hein-tae's rented house would be near Dae-um and her mother's house. As he expected, the apartment opposite hers was registered under his father's name. Jin-wook stormed in, going crazy when he saw Choi Hein-tae. He just wanted to know where Dae-um was. Choi Hein-tae threatened him with a knife, saying he didn't understand why Jin-wook kept getting in his way. If not for Jin-wook, he would have lived happily with Dae-um. After saying this, Choi Hein-tae charged at Jin-wook with a knife, trying to kill him. Yi-dum saw this and blocked the knife, getting stabbed in the stomach. She fainted from blood loss. Choi Hein-tae was arrested by the police. This time, Jin-wook wouldn't let him get away. The previous 5-year sentence was too lenient. This time, he would get 20 years, spending the rest of his days in prison, the nasty stepfather. Yi-dum lay in the hospital watching the news, and unexpectedly, this incident caused her popularity to skyrocket. She remembered the incident where she stabbed Jin Wook, but her hand slipped. It looked like she was a goddess who saved Jin Wook from the deadly knife, so now she was only feeling pain. The prosecutor, Cho Gap-soo, visited Yi-dum, bringing a swarm of reporters along for photo ops and videos. He even gave a speech like a president visiting war heroes, praising Yi-dum's heroism. Min Jae was furious, scolding Yi-dum for accepting an interview with the politician. She warned Yi-dum that this would cause major trouble if she kept it up. Yi-dum feigned a look of helplessness, hoping to avoid further reprimands. Yi-dum was truly a character, a captivating blend of quirkiness and charm. Jin Wook was working diligently when Yi-dum kept texting him, demanding various items. Ever since the incident with Sang-gon Kim, Yi-dum had taken over his tablet. Stuck in the hospital, Yi-dum was bored out of her mind and bombarded Jin Wook with endless messages, sending shivers down his spine every time his phone buzzed. That evening, Jin Wook brought Yi-dum a mountain of food. She devoured it like someone starving from the Korean War, asking innocently, "Is that all?" When she tried to grab some alcohol, Jin Wook stopped her, causing her to lean in close, creating a moment of awkwardness between them. Jin Wook thanked Yi-dum for saving him, even though the circumstances weren't entirely what they seemed. He begged her to combine her texts into one message instead of bombarding him with constant updates, as it was making it impossible for him to focus. The next day, Yi-dum was both bored and lonely in the hospital. She spent 2 hours playing mindless games, then asked Jin Wook to bring her some case files to review. He suggested she read instead, and this seemingly simple suggestion led to a series of unfortunate events. Yi-dum raided her bedside table, desperately searching for a particular book, causing Jin Wook immense frustration. Seeing her mother being cared for in the bed next to her, Yi-dum felt a wave of sadness and loneliness. She called Jin Wook honey, likely hoping to avoid appearing isolated. Dr. Jang, a psychiatrist at the mental hospital, visited Yi-dum and saw a missing persons notice. Yi-dum's mother was the patient she'd taken from Cho Gap-soo years ago, motivated by a hefty payment to settle her debts. Years later, Dr. Jang deeply regretted her actions. It had been 14 years since the incident. Yi-dum wanted to go home that night. She was tired of being in the hospital. After dinner, Jin Wook joined her for a beer. A true warrior on the battlefield of drinking, Yi-dum polished off beer after beer like it was water. With a few drinks in her system, Yi-dum started rambling, asking Jin Wook if he liked her. Why was he so kind to her? Why did he bring her so much food and let her spend the night? Jin Wook tried to deny her accusations, but Yi-dum, emboldened by alcohol, leaned in and kissed him before falling asleep. His face a picture of disbelief, Jin Wook couldn't help but wonder what in the world had just happened. The next morning, Yi-dum went to work and greeted Jin Wook with a string of incomprehensible sentences. She seemed to think Jin Wook liked her and that she was his secret love interest. After work, Yi-dum and Jin Wook went to dinner with their colleagues. It was a pleasant evening, and Yi-dum even took a picture of a coworker with Jin Wook. The coworker clearly had feelings for Jin Wook, and Yi-dum noticed, leading to a potential crisis with Jin Wook's significant other. Yi-dum shared her past with Jin Wook, describing the place where she grew up. Jin Wook recounted a similar story about a noodle shop owner he'd met 10 years ago. She had asked him to find her missing daughter, whom he had met just a few years back. Yi-dum, stunned, realized that this woman must be her mother, who had been missing for 20 years. Jin Wook met Yi-dum's mother, Kim Min-dung, at his mother's hospital. They both went to see Mrs. Jang to find out more about Kim Min-dung's whereabouts. Jin Wook's mother, who had received a bribe from Cho Gap-soo, refused to reveal any information to Yi-dum and Jin Wook. Jin Wook remembered a detective at the police station who had met Yi-dum's mother before. They went to the police station, but the detective had retired a long time ago. This made Yi-dum feel disappointed. Yi-dum had searched every hospital in the country for her mother. She feared her mother had been sold abroad and had given up searching. Whenever there was a body to be identified, her heart would ache. Yi-dum had even gone to the morgue in the middle of the night. She didn't know what had happened to her mother, but she was sure she was searching for her too. Yi-dum cried in front of Jin Wook. He held her in his arms. Before, Jin Wook had only seen Yi-dum as someone who would do anything to win in court. Today, knowing her painful past, he felt determined to protect her and love her more. 10 years ago, Jin Wook had also searched for Yi-dum for Kim Min-dung. but he had encountered the detective who was Cho Gap-soo's bodyguard. So, from the beginning, they had faced their enemy, making it impossible for the mother and daughter to find each other. The next morning, Jin-wook invited Yi-dum to go hiking. He gently bandaged her hand, which made her feel happy. She thought to herself, why not take advantage of this opportunity since she's being touched by a handsome guy? She was still too shy when it came to dating. They went hiking, but Yi-dum wanted to go down halfway through. She realized she wasn't cut out for these kinds of adventures. That night, Jin-wook gave Yi-dum a photo of her mother. He had asked his friend to restore the photo and post a missing person notice. He was confident that they would find her mother sooner or later. Back in her room, Yi-dum kept looking at the photo of her mother. When would she be able to see her mother again? She missed her so much. Yi-dum also thanked Jin-wook for the photo. She then asked Jin-wook to start dating. He was taken aback by her sudden request and firmly declined, leaving Yi-dum to bombard him with texts. Meanwhile, the Women's Crime Prevention Association received a new case. It was a prostitution case involving a dating app. The ringleader, known as Eel King, had bought and sold around 15 girls. He was currently on the run. Yi-dum and Jin-wook created an account to find Tao and Pomilo. Jin-wook attempted to use his charm on Pomilo, but he was quickly rejected. Yi-dum had to step in to lure Pomilo to a meeting. The prosecutor's office wanted to dismantle the entire operation, so Jin-wook went with Pomilo to the apartment she rented. He showed her his prosecutor's badge and asked for her cooperation in finding the person who hired her. Pomilo wanted to go to the bathroom to text Eel King. She was trying to escape from the bathroom, but Yi-dum was waiting for her and forced her to climb back up. Back at the interrogation room, Yi-dum was surprised to find that Pomilo's phone did not have any valuable information. She was quite professional. Before they could ask any more questions, Pomilo fainted due to stomach pain. She was bleeding heavily from her legs, revealing that she was pregnant and had a miscarriage. The doctor had to give her 2 blood transfusions, indicating the severity of her condition. He asked for her family to be contacted. Yi-dum and Jin-wook went to a basement apartment to meet Pomilo's aunt. They learned that Pomilo was doing this to buy medicine for her aunt. Pomilo's aunt called her and told her that if Yi-dum and Jin-wook didn't come back immediately, she wouldn't tell them anything about Eel King. Yi-dum and Jin-wook returned to the hospital. Yi-dum went to talk to Pomilo and threatened her to reveal the name of the person who hired her. But Pomilo was stubborn and refused to talk. She even tried to bargain with them, using her circumstances as an excuse. Yi-dum thought to herself, "You're wrong, little girl. My situation is much harder than you think." Finally, Pomilo revealed Eel King's phone number. This was a huge breakthrough in the investigation. The police wanted to use Pomilo as bait to catch Eel King, but Jin-wook refused because she was still injured and needed time to recover. Pomilo's name was So-ae. That night, Eel King called So-ae. She went to the bathroom to answer the call. He went to her aunt's house and threatened them, causing them both to be terrified. Eel King told So-ae to wear a red dress and go to a meeting. It was him who drove her in the car. Jin-wook over here seemed to have discovered something about his mother too. Yi-dum went to look for her classmate's father, the police officer. Yi-dum knew that before her mother went missing, she had gone to see the chief prosecutor to discuss the rape case at the factory. She was too young then, so she didn't know. Yi-dum ran to Min Jae-suk's office and saw the company where her mother worked, Cho Gap-soo, at the top. Yi-dum realized something. At that moment, Min Jae-suk walked in, and Yi-dum told her that her mother was the missing person. Meanwhile, Jin-wook also found his old phone from 10 years ago. He ran to his mother's office, saw the picture of the victim, and remembered the name of the police officer, Bak Sang-ho, from that year. Jin-wook asked his mother about Kim Min-dong, Yi-dum's mother. He had seen her medical records, but the card number he looked up showed a different name and address. Jin-wook directly asked his mother if she was involved. His mother was sweating with fear. On Yi-dum's side, Min Jae-suk was telling her the story of 1986, when Cho Gap-soo was still the head of the Hyun-gi group. The female worker who was sexually assaulted by him that year went on strike. Min Jae-suk was the prosecutor at that time. She listened to the victims' testimonies, but the prosecution didn't have enough evidence. Yi-dum's mother had a recording of Cho Gap-soo's actions from 10 years before. She had made an appointment with the chief prosecutor, but then disappeared. Jae-suk suspected that he had kidnapped her mother, but it was just speculation. Yi-dum couldn't believe that her mother had been sexually assaulted that year. If that happened to her, she wouldn't have survived a day. The prosecutor gave Yi-dum the file from that year of the Hyungi factory. Jin-wook continued to question his mother in her office. She only told him to eat well and take care of himself. Jin-wook was helpless and left. On his way home, he was driving and couldn't concentrate, almost causing an accident. Yi-dum looked back at the file the chief prosecutor gave her. She flipped through the pages, tears continuously falling. When she saw the images of Cho Gap-soo on TV, she felt nauseous and couldn't control herself. Yi-dum went to the bathroom for a while, then collapsed onto the bathtub, remembering her mother. Yi-dum's mother was lively and cheerful. Why did she have to endure that horrible experience? Yi-dum went to the Hyungi group. She went to the rooftop, climbed over the railing, and stood alone in the void. She gripped her hands and took a deep breath. The scene changed. Cho Gap-soo had just finished welcoming two important officials when he saw his grandson pulling on the red dress of a girl, but he didn't pay much attention. Yi-dum stood on the railing, yelling Cho Gap-soo's name, causing journalists and reporters to surround her. Cho Gap-soo walked over to Yi-dum and tried to talk to her nicely, hoping she would come down and talk properly. Yi-dum recounted that in 1986, her mother had worked at his factory, and Cho Gap-soo had raped her. In 1996, he kidnapped her mother because she was going to report him. Cho Gap-soo heard this and wanted to leave. Yi-dum threw all the newspapers related to him and her mother, wanting to make it very clear to him. Yi-dum continued to use threats to intimidate him. He asked her to shut up if she didn't want to end up like her mother. Yi-dum promised to find evidence to convict him, and then she left. Jin-wook found her under the bench nearby. Yi-dum asked Jin-wook if he could take her home. The two of them got in the car and went home together. Cho Gap-soo on the other side was angry and smashed the glass. He sent people to take care of Yi-dum. Baek-ho was also busy cleaning up the mess that Cho Gap-soo's grandson had made. After cleaning up after his grandson, he had to clean up after him too. It was really a headache. The chief prosecutor called Yi-dum up and asked if she was happy causing trouble. Now Cho Gap-soo has uploaded the videos of her and some photos online with vulgar words. Min Jae-suk apologized for not being able to find Yi-dum's mother. She also warned Yi-dum that Cho Gap-soo is not easily caught. Back to the case of the Pomelo and the king snake, Soa left the hospital on her own after receiving a call from an unknown number. When Yi-dum opened her phone, she received a voicemail from Soa asking for help. Soa had gone to the Hyungi Hotel. All three of them went to the Hyungi Hotel, but they didn't have a search warrant, so they went back. Right at that moment, encountering the eel boss who was coming, Jin-wook recognized him and chased after him. Yi-dum borrowed a car from the locals and rammed into the guy. The three of them apprehended him and brought him to the station. Back at the interrogation room, after a round of circling around the topic, the eel boss confessed that he was hired by someone to find a woman for sex. Upon getting the contact information of the person on the other end, Yi-dum didn't hesitate to take his phone and swiftly went to find the suspect. Arriving at Baek Min-ho's house, he seemed terrified and took a long time to open the door for Yi-dum and Jin-wook. The two interrogated Baek Min-ho, but he continuously denied knowing the girl, despite being presented with a lot of evidence. However, Cho Gap-soo's nephew had already taken Baek Min-ho's ID card for this prostitution transaction. The two left empty-handed, unable to gather any information. On the way, the police reported finding the body of Soe in a deserted forest near the highway. Yi-dum, upon seeing the girl's cold body, was heartbroken. She was brutally tortured before she died. The police also found Baek Min-ho's ID card on Soe's body. At this point, Inspector Baek Sang-ho also knelt down, begging Cho Gap-soo to save Min-ho. However, only heaven can save him now. People say that if you walk with Buddha, you wear a cassock. If you walk with a ghost, you wear paper clothes. Now, both of them have walked with Cho Gap-soo. It won't be long until their hands are stained. Cho Gap-soo's nephew, without a shred of remorse, pushed the weak Soa into the cold, deep forest. The police went to arrest Baek Min-ho. Soe's grandmother also arrived, heartbroken to identify her granddaughter's body. Regardless of who Soa was, to her grandmother, she was a kind and filial girl. Now, witnessing the scene of the white-haired person sending off the green-haired person, it's truly heartbreaking. Back in the prosecutor's office, Jin-wook stood up and analyzed the cause of So-ae's death. The girl died due to hypothermia, which caused her blood sugar to drop. Jin-wook and Yi-dum went back to the interrogation room. Jin-wook had investigated Baek Min-ho's background. He was the younger brother of Baek Sang-ho. The two began to interrogate Baek Min-ho. The witness's testimony pointed out that Baek Min-ho was with another person that day. If he didn't reveal his accomplice, all the evidence here would prove that Min-ho was the one who raped the underage girl, used violence, and disposed of the victim's body. All those crimes would be enough to send him to prison for life. Lawyer Hyojin Kai-eung, who had lost countless lawsuits, still came to defend Min-ho. Faced with the solid evidence, Min-ho was scared and confessed that it was Tae-jin who killed So-ae, not him. The investigation took a new turn. Cho Gap-soo, on the other side, was restless because his stupid nephew, who was the cause of all this, was the one he had to save. Going back to the murder of So-ae, Tae-jin claimed that Min-ho had summoned the girls through a chat app, and he was too drunk to stay awake. When he woke up and didn't see So-ae next to him, Tae-jin went to look for her. Tae-jin was shocked to see that So-ae couldn't move because she had been beaten up so badly. Tae-jin said that Min-ho was crazy. Why would he be so cruel? Tae-jin told Jin-wook that Min-ho was always jealous of him for everything he had. On the other hand, Yi-dum heard Min-ho claim that So-ae was his girlfriend. Tae-jin had used Min-ho's ID card to chat with So-ae. The three of them drank together for almost an hour. When Tae-jin heard a noise and went out, he saw Tae-jin beating So-ae brutally. Min-ho insisted that Tae-jin would hit girls whenever he got drunk. Jin-wook presented evidence that Tae-jin was with Min-ho when they took So-ae to the forest. Thus, Tae-jin was an accomplice to Min-ho. Tae-jin naturally wouldn't admit it. He kept saying that he was drunk and couldn't control himself. Tae-jin didn't know how Min-ho stabbed So-ae, and hiding the car was also done by Min-ho. Tae-jin regretted following Min-ho. If Baek Min-ho and Baek Sang-ho heard Tae-jin's confession, would they want to beat the animal up? Min-ho also tried to prove his innocence. After this incident, Min-ho should wash his eyes and choose friends carefully. Yi-dum, hearing Min-ho's confession, found him ridiculous. Min-ho was the one behind the wheel, and it was also Min-ho who deliberately took the victim into the forest. Just these crimes alone would be enough to make him spend 3 years in prison. After the interrogation, both MD and Jin-wook stayed behind. They insisted that they were merely tools and didn't kill anyone, each blaming the other for an hour. The witness's testimony could be fabricated, and there was no evidence. Therefore, Yi-dum and Jin-wook had to search for more evidence to find the culprit. The USB provided to the prosecutor's office contained testimonies from witnesses claiming that Baek Min-ho was imitating Tae-jin's actions. All the witness statements were detrimental to Min-ho. Reviewing the security footage from Hyun-jae showed only Min-ho carrying So-ae into the car while Tae-jin sat next to her. This camera was adjusted by Cho Gap-soo's brother-in-law. Baek Sang-ho sought Cho Gap-soo out to talk about how everything was being directed at Min-ho. Cho Gap-soo reassured Sang-ho that someone was already searching for evidence everywhere to help Min-ho, telling him not to worry too much. It's unclear whether Cho Gap-soo was being truthful or deceitful, but Baek Sang-ho still believed him for now. Min-ho's social media posts showed him copying Tae-jin's actions, word for word. Scrolling down the photos, they found one where both of them were together, with Tae-jin wearing a pair of gloves. Yi-dum took Tae-jin's gloves and said that they contained Tae-jin's DNA and So-ae's blood, so he wouldn't escape. At this, Tae-jin laughed maniacally, claiming the gloves weren't his, and he would write his name on all his belongings. Someone reported finding a second witness who was with So-ae, Hyun Gi-soo. Gi-soo testified that she saw Tae-jin putting on gloves himself and hitting So-ae in the face and everywhere else. So-ae was beaten and stabbed, crying in pain and begging him to stop. It seemed that So-ae died, and the monster laughed. She pointed directly at Baek Min-ho as the one who killed So-ae. Gi-soo didn't want any trouble and didn't want to come back again. Hearing this, Yi-dum rebuked her, saying that if it hadn't been for So-ae, it would have been Gi-soo who died that night. So-ae died in her place. If she had run away and called the police, So-ae wouldn't have frozen to death in the woods. Gi-soo cried and acted distraught. Yi-dum and Jin-wook ended the interview there. Back in her room, Yi-dum concluded that Baek Min-ho was the mastermind and Taejin was an accomplice. After hearing Yi-dum's words, Gi-soo felt remorse and called Yi-dum to tell her an important detail about the gloves Taejin wore that day. This was crucial evidence, so Gi-soo sent it to Yi-dum via express delivery. After hearing this, Yi-dum ran to find Jin-wook, only to see him talking to his mother. Yi-dum clearly heard Jin-wook saying that when Kim Min-dong wasn't mentally ill, Baek Sang-ho still locked her up. His own mother was an accomplice of Cho Gap-soo. He was furious that his mother was involved in this deal and ignored Kim Min-dong's pleas. Yi-dum called Jin-wook back, approaching him to confirm what she heard. His mother denied it, trying to leave. Yi-dum wanted to shout at her to uncover the truth. Jin-wook held her back, saying it would be useless because his mother wouldn't say anything. Yi-dum warned Jin-wook that she would find her mother herself without his or his mother's help. In the detention center, defendant Taejin was released. Baek Sang-ho, like a dog off its leash, frantically searched for his master, begging for help for his brother. He was like he was sitting on a bed of coals, yet Cho Gap-soo told him to wait. At this point, Baek Sang-ho couldn't wait any longer. He wanted to go to the police station to report what Cho Gap-soo had been doing for the past 20 years. Cho Gap-soo couldn't believe his loyal dog was now about to stab him in the back. If Cho Gap-soo rescued Min-ho, Baek Sang-ho would become his loyal servant again. Seeing this, Cho Gap-soo called a friend and promised to rescue Min-ho, promising a lot and breaking promises even more. Yi-dum also made an appointment with Baek Sang-ho to talk. Now, she had crucial evidence in hand to save Min-ho. She wanted to know about her mother. What happened to her? Baek Sang-ho hadn't even started to speak when Cho Gap-soo sent him a message saying he would rescue Min-ho. With such promises and words, Baek Sang-ho believed him once more. He adamantly refused to tell Yi-dum anything. Yi-dum couldn't believe he was so naive. Min-ho's lawyer, Hyojin Kai-eung, was out of this case. She had been on Taejin's side for a long time. It's a shame that Min-ho became a scapegoat for Cho Gap-soo. Baek Sang-ho went to find Cho Gap-soo and found him happily having dinner with chairman and beau of Taejin and lawyer Kai-eung. He scheduled a meeting with Yi-dum and told her everything about her mother. The detective who was following them sent Cho Gap-soo a picture of Yi-dum and Baek Sang-ho talking together. Baek Sang-ho told Yi-dum that her mother had passed away. Yi-dum was heartbroken and blamed him for her mother's death, but he remained nonchalant. Baek Sang-ho knelt down and said that he would change and pay the price. He gave Yi-dum all the evidence against Cho Gap-soo's crimes if she would help Min-ho. Jin-wook went to see Yi-dum about her mother. Yi-dum was furious that her mother was trying to bury the past. If her mother had spoken up, Yi-dum would have found her. Jin-wook apologized to Yi-dum, but she said she didn't need his apology. She wanted to get back everything her mother had suffered, including interest. The next morning, Yi-dum met with Min-ho and told him she would save him no matter what because his brother had something she needed. Cho Gap-soo wanted to make a deal with Baek Sang-ho about the video footage of Taejin abusing So-ae. However, Baek Sang-ho didn't trust him anymore since the previous night. Baek Sang-ho had been tricked by him time and time again. Meanwhile, Jin-wook saw the picture of Yi-dum and Baek Sang-ho talking. He went to Yi-dum's desk and found that she had changed Taejin's file to murder and Min-ho as an accomplice. There was also a fingerprint indicating that she was the one who had changed it. Jin-wook wanted to talk to Yi-dum, as he thought she had made a deal with Baek Sang-ho to get information about her mother. Yi-dum received a call from Gi-soo, who had the glove Taejin used to hit So-ae that night. Jin-wook heard the call and still found it suspicious because the perpetrator might not claim it since Gi-soo sent it as evidence. Yi-dum was stubborn and said she wouldn't ruin the trial. She would put Taejin in the position of a murderer and help So-ae get revenge. Jin-wook had no choice but to report it. Yi-dum was confident and went to get the report on the glove. She returned and submitted it to Chief Prosecutor Min Jae-suk. The chief prosecutor wanted Yi-dum to withdraw from the case because she had met with the suspect's family, which would ruin her reputation in court. Yi-dum refused. Min Jae-suk brought up Yi-dum's mother, causing Yi-dum to become even angrier. Yi-dum's mother had suffered in the mental hospital, unable to see her daughter, and then was burned in the hospital. How could she deal with such pain? As for Yi-dum, she had lived in longing and loss for 20 years, losing both her father and mother. Now, she only wanted to put Cho Gap-soo and Baek Sang-ho away. not letting them get away like they did 20 years ago. Min Jae-suk vehemently objected to Yi-dum's actions, stating that she was ruining the trial and herself. The day of the trial arrived, and Jin-wook stood up and presented the evidence incriminating Tae-jin as the murderer. The glove had Tae-jin's name on it. Lawyer Kai-eung also presented evidence that Min-ho was prone to violence. She said she had found a link between Min-ho's DNA and So-ae's blood. She also said that the link matched the scars on So-ae's body, implying that Min-ho attacked and pushed the victim to her death. At the end of the trial, Yi-dum was taken away by the inspector because of the picture of her and Baek Sang-ho from the night before. As she was taken away, Yi-dum held So-ae's hand and promised to put both of them in jail at tomorrow's trial. Yi-dum turned around and walked with the inspector. While in the interrogation room, Yi-dum was still confident. She said she only met Baek Sang-ho, and she had the right to remain silent about changing the testimony. Meanwhile, Min-ho told Jin-wook about the video footage that would prove his innocence the next day. Baek Sang-ho saw that the trial was going downhill and asked Cho Gap-soo for the video footage of Tae-jin's brutal attack on So-ae. He kept going back and forth, blaming Baek Sang-ho and eventually wanting him to take the blame. For Min-ho's safety, Baek Sang-ho wrote a confession without thinking, taking the blame for Cho Gap-soo. The trial on the 2nd. While waiting for Baek Sang-ho to be called, news came that he had died. This news shocked Min-ho. He died at his own home. At Baek Sang-ho's funeral, Cho Gap-soo came and cried as if he was deeply saddened. He even stood up and declared that Jae-dum had forced Baek Sang-ho to create political disputes. He hoped that the Supreme Prosecutor's office would clarify this matter. Back in the court, since Yi-wook didn't find any further evidence to prove Min-ho's innocence, he was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Tae-jin received a 3-year suspended sentence. At the Supreme Prosecutor's office, Prosecutor T confessed to the crime on behalf of Jae-dum and returned her badge. She packed her things and left. Jae-dum was also allowed to leave. She couldn't believe it was true. As she walked out, she still had a cheerful expression. Outside, she read the news and found out that Min Gi-suk had resigned to save Jae-dum. She ran back to the office to find Prosecutor T, but she had already gone. Yi-wook went to find Jae-dum and blamed her. He said that because of her impulsiveness, she ruined the trial. Even the truth about her mother couldn't be found. This time, Jae-dum destroyed everything. She was ashamed and ran outside, crying as she walked, her figure lonely and sad. It started raining, making Jae-dum feel that the world was unfair. Seeing that Cho Gap-soo won the election on the news made her choke with anger. Cho Gap-soo stood in his office, looking at the rain. He saw Sang-ho come to congratulate him. The person who was the best to him was also hurt by him. He became mayor, but he was so lonely. Cho Gap-soo sat in a corner, crying and calling out Baek Sang-ho's name like a child. At home, Yi-dum moved out of Jin-wook's house. She looked at her mother's portrait, making her feel even more helpless. It was clear that her mother had suffered so much, endured so much pain, but Yi-dum couldn't do anything to help. Jin-wook returned home, only to find that Yi-dum had already left. The house was empty. Yi-dum was really gone. 3 months later, Yi-dum returned, making Jin-wook jump. She had a new hairstyle. She came back because she was accused of a crime, not to resume her job as a prosecutor. Yes, the accusation was for raping a young man because he was too handsome. Yi-dum, due to her carefree lifestyle and lack of financial responsibility, had accumulated a significant amount of debt. Desperate for a way to support herself, she resorted to distributing flyers. While doing so, she bumped into 2 former colleagues. Upon inquiring about their well-being, Yi-dum realized that everyone had achieved stability and success in their careers except for her. She felt like a complete failure, desperately clinging to her self-image as a successful taxi driver even as she struggled to make ends meet. That evening, she found herself drowning her sorrows with beers at a street-side bar. When it came time to head home, Yi-dum called a taxi. Attracted by the driver's handsome features, she found herself infatuated with him. However, the morning light revealed the driver was not as attractive as she had perceived him to be in her drunken state. Unbeknownst to Yi-dum, Jin-wook, who happened to be observing the situation, noticed the driver's suspicious actions and assumed he was trying to steal from Yi-dum. He intervened, lying to the driver and then filing a complaint against him. After resolving the situation, Jin-wook, Concerned for Yi-dum's well-being, inquired about her health and if she was living comfortably. Yi-dum, with a reassuring smile, assured him she was fine and that he shouldn't worry about her. Jin-wook then informed Yi-dum that he was still assisting her with the case involving her mother, as well as the lawsuit related to Soe. However, Yi-dum had lost faith in everything and everyone. She cautioned Jin-wook against doing things he couldn't handle, warning him not to end up regretting his actions like she had. Suddenly, a new case presented itself to Yi-dum, a potential lucrative opportunity for the struggling lawyer. The case involved a sexual assault accusation made against Lee Sang-hyun, the owner of a bakery and coffee shop. The victim, Jong Jo-jin, a photographer for a culinary magazine, reported the assault to the police. According to official records, the incident appeared to be consensual. However, Jong Jo-jin claimed she was raped and used Lee Sang-hyun's phone to call the police, a move that seemed incredibly suspicious. When the police arrived, they found 3 packs of condoms at Lee Sang-hyun's residence, adding an element of complexity to the situation. Yi-dum took on the case and visited Lee Sang-hyun's bakery, demanding he tell her the truth and avoid any lies. She emphasized the importance of his honesty, reminding him that the court would likely have evidence and that she hated being stabbed in the back. Lee Sang-hyun began to recount his relationship with Jong Jo-jin, stating they had been acquainted for a year and had developed a mutual attraction. They shared similar interests and frequently communicated. Lee Sang-hyun admitted that both he and Jong Jo-jin had feelings for each other, but neither of them had confessed. However, Jong Jo-jin's testimony contradicted this completely. She claimed to have no romantic interest in Lee Sang-hyun. She described how they had both gone out for drinks at a bar, and it was actually she who had bought 3 packs of condoms and paid for them before arriving at Lee Sang-hyun's place. She explained that she had paid for the condoms because she didn't want to rely on men to pay for everything. When questioned about how much she had consumed that night, Jong Jo-jin's response did not align with the records. She claimed that upon waking up, she found Lee Sang-hyun on top of her. She stated that she threatened to call the police if he didn't leave, and Lee Sang-hyun nonchalantly handed her his phone, telling her to go ahead and call them. Meanwhile, Yi-dum visited the store where Jong Jo-jin had bought the condoms to retrieve surveillance footage. Later, she called Lee Sang-hyun to confirm his willingness to hire her, demanding $1 million up front and promising a total of $40 million if she won the case. During the interrogation, Yi-dum confidently defended Lee Sang-hyun, frequently interrupting Jin-wook as she believed she understood the law better than anyone. At the trial, Jong Jo-jin tearfully testified that due to her intoxicated state, Lee Sang-hyun had taken advantage of her and raped her. Yi-dum, however, countered this claim by presenting text messages revealing Jong Jo-jin's flirtatious nature. Jong Jo-jin attempted to defend herself by claiming it was just her usual way of communicating. Yi-dum agreed with this explanation but pointed out that Jong Jo-jin's revealing attire, consisting of lace and mesh, indicated she was intentionally trying to seduce Lee Sang-hyun. Moreover, the victim had a high tolerance for alcohol and had only consumed half her usual amount that night, making it improbable she was too intoxicated to remember the events. Jin-wook presented evidence showing Lee Sang-hyun dragging the victim, who was struggling to stand upright, suggesting that the defendant had taken advantage of the victim's intoxicated state to force himself on her. Yi-dum then raised the receipt for the 3 packs of condoms, proving that Jong Jo-jin had purchased them and paid for them at the counter, indicating a level of consent and mutual understanding regarding their ambiguous relationship. Based on this evidence, the court agreed to grant Yi-dum's request and scheduled a second trial. Later, while dining at an upscale restaurant, Yi-dum encountered Lee Sang-hyun, who was passionately embracing another woman. She was about to go out and remind him, but he was already gone. Later, when she went back in and saw the other girl was also drunk and dazed, Yi-dum knew Sang-hyun had slipped something into her drink. At the second trial, Jin-wook proved that the 3 drinks the girl had consumed all had a blue tint, and the sexual enhancement pill was also blue. This was only the prosecutor's speculation, but Yi-dum suddenly pulled out a pen containing a date-rape drug from her bag. Yi-dum exposed the bastard right there in court. Even though she had taken money from him, Yi-dum would never defend him if he broke the law. Even though she lost the case, she felt relieved. She had just bought a car to be a driver. but she had to sell it to pay off her debt because she had made a deal with someone to get important video footage. Yi-dum was introduced to Min Gi-suk's law firm by her former colleague and Jin-wook. Seeing familiar faces made Yi-dum a little awkward, but also happy. She refused to work at Min Gi-suk's law firm and left. The witness who wanted to testify in court went to see the chief prosecutor, wanting to expose the truth. Yi-dum heard this and turned back. At the scene of the murder at the bar, the killer had already fled. Kim Hyung-soo, the detective working for Cho Gap-soo, was implicated in the case. Police reported that the killer's DNA matched his. Meanwhile, Hong Sin-hwa reported a sexual assault. The police found the perpetrator 20 years ago. Going back to 1997, Hong Sin-hwa had gone out with her friends at the lake. 2 seconds later, she was taken to the hospital because she had been sexually assaulted. The perpetrator, Kim Hyung-soo, was the spokesperson for Mayor Cho Gap-soo. The case 20 years ago was very difficult to catch him. Yi-dum heard that the case was related to Cho Gap-soo, so she wanted to stay and work for the chief prosecutor. She reminded Yi-dum of the case of So-ae because of personal feelings. He lost his position as prosecutor and became a regular lawyer. Yi-dum was different now. She had changed a lot. She wanted to stand on the side of the victims to seek justice. This time, the chief prosecutor gave Yi-dum the case file and wanted her to work with Jin-wook. Back in the interrogation room, Hyung-soo claimed he didn't remember the case, but he remembered meeting Hong Sin-hwa by the river on November 22, 1997. They had built a bonfire together. He said he just lightly kissed her cheek and held her hand. That was his beautiful winter memory. Looking at Hong Sin-hwa's medical records, she saw how much pain and trauma she had endured. For him, it was a beautiful memory. Yi-dum was the lawyer handling this case, so she wanted to meet with Jin-wook to discuss the case. Jin-wook refused because their tasks were different now. Yi-dum was a lawyer. She had to listen to the instructions and requests of the prosecutor, which was Jin-wook. Yi-dum went to find Hong Sin-hwa to learn more about the case. She volunteered to do the work for Hong Sin-hwa, hoping she would come to the cross-examination. Just then, she saw Hong Sin-hwa being molested by a lecherous man. Yi-dum chased him away to help her, but in just 3 seconds, she disappeared. Yi-dum went to look for Hong Sin-hwa and saw that she had a very lovely young son. Seeing her carrying her son, Yi-dum suddenly remembered her own mother. When she was little, her mother often carried her on her back like that. She couldn't help but smile, a mixture of sadness and joy. Yi-dum drove after her, wanting her to get in the car with her. If not, a group of cars behind her were about to smash Yi-dum's face. She took Hong Sin-hwa and her son home and met her husband. Hong Sin-hwa bowed her head and thanked Yi-dum for taking her wife's case. He said that for all these years, she had been having nightmares every night, living in fear and torment. He just hoped that Hyung-soo would be punished and Sin-hwa would live happily. Finally, Yi-dum met with Hong Sin-hwa to talk. She told Hong Sin-hwa about her mother. Yi-dum's mother had also bravely stood up and accused the man who raped her. She also lived in fear and humiliation for 10 years. Sadly, before she could expose the bastard, Yi-dum's mother disappeared. Hearing Yi-dum's words, Hong Sin-hwa became stronger and proactively went to the cross-examination with Hyung-soo. Entering the interrogation room, Hong Sin-hwa didn't dare to look him in the eyes. Hyung-soo recounted the story from 20 years ago, as if he still remembered every detail. That year, according to Hyung-soo's memory, Hong Sin-hwa walked with him to the riverbank and the meadow. He wanted to leave, but she stopped him and wanted him to stay with her a little longer. She objected. She recounted that Hyung-soo suddenly attacked her. That night, the grass was very tall. Hyung-soo asked her to wait for him, but she didn't. He pushed her down and did something terrible. When Hong Sin-hwa woke up, she only heard crickets chirping and saw pink grass. When the prosecutor's son investigated, the pink grass had only been imported 5 years ago, while the incident occurred 20 years ago. Hyung-soo was triumphant and used that as an excuse to say that Hong Sin-hwa was rambling. He even presented evidence with her medical history records from the hospital, stating she had a fear and breathing disorder. Hyung-soo continued by saying that her condition caused her to talk nonsense and say things she couldn't control. The interrogation ended with Hong Sin-hwa at a disadvantage. This event happened 20 years ago, but suddenly there was a glimmer of light in the case. Jin-wook went to meet the witness who had taken Hong Sin-hwa to the hospital after the incident. Yi-dum followed Jin-wook to the small island where the witness lived. They found out the witness was an acquaintance, Mrs. Choi, who was a former nurse at Mrs. Jang's mental hospital. Mrs. Choi and Jin-wook were trapped in the bathroom together and were saved by Yi-dum's mother. Because of her mother's act of saving them, she was badly burned. Mrs. Choi recounted the story when she met Hong Sin-hwa. At that time, Mrs. Choi took Hong Sin-hwa to the hospital covered in blood. Mrs. Choi agreed to appear in court as a witness. While eating, she saw Mrs. Choi hanging out patient clothes for Jin-wook and helped her. She told Mrs. Choi about Yi-dum, the daughter of Kim Min-dung, who saved her and Jin-wook from the big fire at the hospital. Mrs. Choi seemed to understand something, but she still kept it from Jin-wook and Yi-dum. Yi-dum and Jin-wook bid farewell to Mrs. Choi and returned. At the Central Prosecutor's office in Seo-un District, Hyung-soo was horrified when Jin-wook presented the witness's testimony. Hyung-soo remained stubborn, claiming Hong Sin-hwa's account of pink grass was illogical. Jin-wook presented evidence that fireworks were shot off that year, causing the green grass to appear pink to Hong Sin-hwa due to the light from the fireworks. Hyung-soo was even more terrified. He had a scar on his hand because Hong Sin-hwa had bitten him very hard that year. Hyung-soo went to look for Gap-soo to ask for help, but he had abandoned Hyung-soo. The situation was worsening, so Hyung-soo went to Yi-dum, hoping she would help him. Yi-dum wanted Hyung-soo to provide evidence against Gap-soo in exchange for her support in court. Hyung-soo gave her information about Gap-soo's wife, causing Yi-dum to smile in satisfaction. In court, Hyung-soo boldly stood up and swore to the court. Yi-dum stood up and presented the court with a document requesting a severe sentence for the defendant. Upon hearing this, Hyung-soo realized he had been tricked by Yi-dum. Yi-dum also played a recording of Hyung-soo's own words, leaving him with no room to react. In the end, Hyung-soo was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Hong Sin-hwa thanked Yi-dum and felt much relieved. Her joy for life was gradually returning. Gap-soo's convoy was moving when it encountered a loud, boisterous musical and dance parade, which annoyed him greatly. By chance, his car lightly bumped into a vendor's cart, but he got out to help and resolve the situation quickly. It turned out that the vendor was Yi-dum's mother, but Gap-soo didn't recognize her. He was in a hurry to attend a golf game with the Prime Minister. Gap-soo proved himself to be a very skilled and adept person at handling relationships, which is why he was re-elected mayor for 3 consecutive years. The conversation between those officials was secretly photographed by investigative reporters as evidence. The scene shifted to Yeon-hae entering a hotel, activating an audio recording earring and putting it on. Yeon-hae was undercover, infiltrating the criminal's lair, but when she arrived at the security checkpoint and they used a metal detector, they detected the listening device. In that tense situation, Yeon-hae had to remove the earring and throw it in a corner. In the end, she successfully passed the metal detector and infiltrated the inside. It turned out to be a meeting between Gap-soo and 2 officials. One person proposed expanding the construction of schools in Gyeongdong, so they needed the agreement and cooperation of the president of the Hyung-ji group sitting across from him. Yeon-hae was very anxious because she had lost her earring. Taking advantage of the time when the 2 security guards went out to eat, she slipped out to find her earring. One guard nearby was patrolling, which made Yeon-hae's heart skip a beat, but luckily, he didn't notice her hiding under the table nearby. Meanwhile, Yi-dum and Jae-suk were discussing a few cases, most notably the Chang-eung sexual abuse scandal in 2004. It involved Mr. Cho Gap-soo, who was behind the entire operation of trafficking women and covering up illegal money laundering. That was also the reason why he had enough resources to become a member of the National Assembly. Right then, Yeon-hae came back from the secret room and revealed that the base where they operated was the Hyung-ji Hotel. Yeon-hae was Jae-suk's spy planted inside to investigate because Yeon-hae's sister had been a victim in that scandal. Yeon-hae provided the location of the so-called lobby, which was at the Hyung-ji Hotel, along with the recorded earring containing the conversation between Mr. Cho Gap-soo and his members. On the other hand, Yoo-rai gave Jin-wook the photo she took of Mr. Cho playing golf with the Prime Minister and the headmaster of Han-guk Elementary School, proving that these officials were all involved in the illegal operation. While they were discussing, Sun came in and announced that Young Young-ho had been arrested and was being brought here for questioning. Immediately, Jin-wook took over the investigation and started interrogating him. Young Ho continued to deny everything and refused to admit anything. He demanded bail so that he could attend his father's funeral, and then he would confess voluntarily. On the other hand, because Yeon Hai had independently infiltrated the enemy's secret room, Jae-suk reprimanded her because it could be dangerous. However, it was the only way to investigate Mr. Cho. Yeon Hai was furious and took the recorded earring box outside, but after some thought and struggle, she returned and apologized to Jae-suk, hoping that with this evidence, she could make Mr. Cho pay. After that, the three of them sat down and listened to the entire recording that Yeon Hai had taken. The scene changed to Jin Wook going to the detention center to meet Bi Min Ho. He wanted him to reveal the missing details in the case to clear his name, but Min Ho refused. The death of his brother while investigating this case still haunted him, so Jin Wook reluctantly let him go. Min Ho remembered his conversation with Mr. Cho before. With his smooth tongue, Mr. Cho had managed to convince Min Ho to drop his suspicions and gain his sympathy. But now, Min Ho realized that Mr. Cho had lied. Back in the office, Jae-suk and her two subordinates were planning to find the list of lobbyists. Yo-dum was going to approach Dong-sik, a security guard at the hotel, to get more information. Then, Yi-dum suggested going to a bar to find Dong-sik. She intended to use her charm to seduce him, but he was not her type, so he refused and left. The two were arguing on the street when they met Yeon Hai. Dong-sik immediately followed Yeon Hai because she was the type he liked. After a flirtatious remark, Dong-sik fell into Yeon Hai's love trap. The scene shifted to the prison guard calling Mr. Cho to inform him that Min Ho was about to confess something to Prosecutor Jin Wook. Immediately, Min Ho was arrested by the prison guards for illegal possession of weapons and locked up in solitary confinement. The scene changed to the hotel security guard reviewing security footage and discovering the unusual intrusion by Yeon Hai the previous day. He immediately investigated and reported this to the old man. Realizing that she knew too much, the old man ordered her to be dealt with. He also suspected that someone was behind it. Then, the bodyguard met Yeon Hai in the car to ask her about her relationship with Dong-sik. Yeon Hai said that she was just teasing him and there was no romance. It turned out that the bodyguard had secretly called Dong-sik so that he could hear the entire conversation and expose Yeon Hai. The scene changed to the prison. Min Ho had been released. The bodyguard warned him not to reveal anything to the prosecutor. However, that couldn't stop Min Ho from revealing all the secret locations at the hotel that the old man had set up. That was also where Kang So-ae's video was filmed. That night, Yeon Hai and Yi-dum planned to break into Dong-sik's house to steal information. Yeon Hai entered the house without thinking that Dong-sik had discovered her. She secretly placed a bug in the bathroom, but when she came out, Dong-sik's expression turned cold because he knew she was deceiving him. He attacked Yeon Hai. Yi-dum was waiting outside and suffered the same fate. Team leader Jae-suk couldn't get through to them, so he suspected that something had happened. He immediately informed Jin Wook to come to the rescue. Jin Wook immediately drove to find them. At this time, Yi-dum and Yeon Hai were locked in the house and being interrogated. The two girls remained defiant. Just then, the police arrived to check according to the request. Dong-sik took Yeon Hai out but controlled her with a knife and forced her to lie to the police that they were just playing. But Yeon Hai's sparkling eyes made the police suspicious. As they were about to leave, Jin Wook arrived. They immediately rushed into the house to rescue them. Dong-sik resisted, but was quickly subdued. Yo-dum was banging on the door from the next room, and Jin Wook rescued her. Afterwards, Jin Wook immediately chased after the bodyguard Choi to retrieve the evidence video. The two of them chased each other for a while before catching up and a fight broke out. Choi tried to snatch the bag from Jin Wook's hand and punched him mercilessly. Luckily, the police arrived to help, and Choi ran away. Finally, everything was resolved. The prosecutor's office successfully obtained the video evidence of the assault at the hotel. The next morning, a trial was held to judge Kang So-ae's murder case. It was proven that Min Ho was innocent and the real mastermind was Young Ho. But the defendant's lawyers insisted on denying everything and counter-accused, which led to a deadlock in the trial. Jin Wook was very worried when he was on the back foot. At that moment, the prosecutor Yi-dum entered with a confident look on her face. Yi-dum didn't hesitate before the court, pointing directly at Tae-jin's face and accusing him as the real culprit. Yi-dum presented a video recording showing Tae-jin brutally attacking the victim. which made everyone present feel heartbroken. Finally, with such solid evidence, the court sentenced Tae-jin to life imprisonment, while Lee Min-ho received a reduced sentence, a just punishment for the heinous crime he committed. The trial ended peacefully. Immediately, Tae-jin's father called the old man, informing him that the video in Kingdom had been exposed, leading to his son's imprisonment. He promised to investigate and quickly resolve the matter. The media reported on the murder case, condemning Mr. and Suk-pin and his son. They also mentioned the lobbying room at the Hyung-ji Hotel established by the old man Cho, a place that protected the lavish parties and murders committed by high-ranking officials. Witnesses also participated in exposing the K area of the hotel. The old man Cho could no longer maintain his composure, smashing objects and plotting revenge. Meanwhile, Min-ho was released from prison, while Tae-jin had to face the consequences of his actions. Upon leaving, Min-ho met Prosecutor Yi-dam. She showed him the text message that his brother sent before his death, exonerating his younger brother. That was what his brother had been trying to do, and now Yi-dam had helped him accomplish it. The news reported on the Hyung-ji Group's bribery and illegal admission scandal, angering the public who demanded a special investigation into Hyung-ji. Geo Jin-wook, along with the police and relevant agencies, conducted a search and arrest operation at the Kyungdeum building. However, the building required a card for entry. Yi-dam arrived just in time, swiped her card and went inside with everyone else, but Cho Gap-soo was one step ahead. He had cleaned up his battlefield before the prosecutor and police arrived. At the cemetery, Min-ho stood before his brother's portrait, crying like a child who had lost his father. Although Baek Sang-ho worked under Cho Gap-soo's direction, he was a good brother to Sang-ho. To Min-ho, Baek Sang-ho was a vast, loving sky. Now, with his brother gone, Min-ho returned to the house with the big tree that Baek Sang-ho had mentioned. Min-ho seemed to understand something and dug beneath the roots of the large tree. He immediately found Baek Sang-ho's diary, detailing Cho Gap-soo's schedule and crimes. The scene shifted to Yi-dam calling the hospital where Cho Gap-soo's wife was staying. She requested that the hospital not give her any sleeping pills, allowing her to wake up. Yi-dam obtained this information from Hyung-soo, which she kept from Geo Jin-wook. Min-ho called Yi-dam to discuss the situation. If she wanted the diary, she had to shed light on his brother's death. Yi-dam agreed and told Min-ho to keep his promise. When Geo Jin-wook and Yi-dam returned to Min Gi-suk's law firm, they found the place in disarray. The investigation files on Cho Gap-soo had also disappeared. Cho Gap-soo, on the other side, was reviewing his files from 20 years ago. He ruthlessly tossed them into the fire, destroying everything that was unclean about him. Chief Prosecutor Min Gi-suk seemed to be at a dead end. Now, only Baek Sang-ho's diary remained as the final piece of evidence to send Cho Gap-soo to prison. Yi-dam and Geo Jin-wook went back to the scene where Baek Sang-ho committed suicide. They found that the pen at the scene was different from the pen they had found before. Yi-dam and Geo Jin-wook went to the police station to retrieve the pen. They noticed an inscription on the pen about a soccer tournament. Yi-dam and Geo Jin-wook investigated the soccer tournament, realizing something. At the detention center, Min Gi-suk sought out Cho Gap-soo's subordinate who was at the K building. She wanted to speak with him about Kyungdeum. If he remained silent, no one could really help him anymore. Ever since Baek Sang-ho's death, Cho Gap-soo had been plagued by bad luck. He was increasingly disliked by the people, and even received suspicion from his superiors. After arguing with the mayor, Cho Gap-soo remembered the woman he met on the island. Of course, he would send his subordinates to capture Kim Min-dong, Ma Yi-dam's mother. In 23, Baek Sang-ho went to Sina Hospital and requested Choi to inject a drug to kill Kim Min-dong. Cho Gap-soo smiled because Baek Sang-ho wouldn't kill someone so easily. Ma Yi-dam and Geo Jin-wook went to find the police officer who had swapped Baek Sang-ho's pen at the crime scene. It turned out that the officer had discovered something strange about the case. However, the police department insisted it was a simple murder case. The officer noticed something unusual and took the pen to analyze the fingerprints. It turned out there were fingerprints belonging to both Baek Sang-ho and Cho Gap-soo, making it almost certain that Baek Sang-ho's death was caused by Cho Gap-soo forcing him to commit suicide. Meanwhile, Cho Gap-soo also sent his subordinates to capture Kim Min-dong and Choi, ordering them to kill both. Due to the burns she sustained, Kim Min-dong had completely lost her memory. Choi and Jang met, and Choi realized the danger approaching both her and Min Dong. She rushed home and told Min Dong to pack her bags and leave. Choi couldn't explain everything to Min Dong at that time. She could only say that she owed a lot of money and someone was trying to find her. Choi sought help from Jang, who immediately agreed. Knowing that Cho Gap-soo's subordinates were all around, she exchanged cars with one of her own. Thanks to Jang's assistance, they escaped Cho Gap-soo's grasp, as if returning from the dead. At Seoul, Jang decided to let the two stay at her place to avoid further danger. Failing to capture them, Cho Gap-soo angrily punched his subordinates. To add to his frustration, Cho Gap-soo received information that the prosecution was conducting a special investigation. Ma Yi-dum stood up and announced the important evidence like Baek Sang-ho's diary to the media. She smiled triumphantly. The prosecutors were reading Baek Sang-ho's diary repeatedly. From it, they deduced that there were at least 300 people involved with Cho Gap-soo. This was the biggest case ever. The prosecutors began interviewing related individuals, including high-ranking officials and politicians. Naturally, the higher their position, the greater their reputation, and no one dared admit their involvement with Cho Gap-soo and King Diem. The prosecutors decided to publish an article about King Diem's prostitutes contracting HIV/AIDS. The news scared those who frequented these places. Even Cho Gap-soo was shocked that his recruits were infected with the disease. While these individuals went to buy HIV test kits, the prosecutors sent people to follow them and take pictures. They secretly captured at least 10 men buying test kits. Although these pictures were taken secretly, they were publicized openly, allowing the prosecutors to ask anything they wanted, and these individuals would reveal everything. With these witnesses and testimonies, they had solid evidence to charge Cho Gap-soo with a crime and send him to prison. Only Cho Gap-soo, Min Gi-suk, Ma Yi-dum, and Jeo Jin-wook were left to serve him. Ma Yi-dum didn't forget to scoff and mock him. 20 years ago, he escaped punishment, but now he would be imprisoned and face the consequences of his actions. Ma Yi-dum and everyone else cheerfully returned to their room, only to discover the diary missing. Upon searching, they found that a new prosecutor named Han-soo had taken it. He apologized to the three because he had been threatened by Cho Gap-soo and Min Gi-suk, who decided to bring him to the police station because he was a spy ruining everyone's efforts. Although everything was documented, it couldn't be used as evidence in court. Only Ma Yi-dum thought that Cho Gap-soo wouldn't destroy the diary because it contained many secrets he wasn't aware of. Indeed, Cho Gap-soo was reading about the dark side of a certain mayor's illegitimate child. He was pleased with what he had read because it could be beneficial to him. Ma Yi-dum and Jin-wook went to Hanjai to meet lawyer Hyo, who emerged from President An's office. She hadn't even been interrogated yet, but she revealed the existence of the diary. Ma Yi-dum used a top-secret piece of information to trade with lawyer Hyo. Afterward, Ma Yi-dum and Jin-wook went to the hospital where Cho Gap-soo's wife was hospitalized. Bao arrived to report at her bedside. After searching, Ma Yi-dum found the diary under Cho Gap-soo's wife's head. Stepping out, Ma Yi-dum confidently answered the reporters, stating that Cho Gap-soo was trying to kill his own wife. He had drugged his wife and destroyed her internal organs. With such a crime, the prosecutor's office would never give up investigating the case. Gap-soo went to find Chairman, and because his wife was Chairman and sister, Chairman and coldly told Gap-soo to sign the divorce papers with his sister immediately. He also said that Gap-soo would spend the rest of his life in prison repenting. Meanwhile, Ma Yi-dum told Jin-wook not to interfere in her mother's case because Miss Jang was involved. She wouldn't stand for her mother being put in prison if she was Ma Yi-dum. She asked Jin-wook to put Gap-soo behind bars for his crimes. Jin-wook reassured her, saying that she could leave it to him. Back at Jin-wook's house, he found his apartment messy and cleaned it up. He then went to meet his mother. She apologized to him for causing him trouble, and asked him if he would be okay if she was convicted and became a criminal. Jin-wook, heartbroken, said his heart would be in pain. There was nothing else he could do. His mother smiled and told him to focus on his work and not worry about her. Miss Jang left quietly. Jin-wook sat on the steps and cried. It was painful to be the one investigating his own mother. At Miss Jang's clinic, Miss Min Dong saw Ma Yi-dum on TV and couldn't help but cry. She felt a strange pain in her heart when she saw Ma Yi-dum. Miss Choi decided it was time to tell Miss Min Dong the truth. Meanwhile, Gap-soo was being beaten and cursed at by the crowd. He was furious, blaming Ma Yi-dum for everything he was going through. Ma Yi-dum was meeting with Miss Jang. She wanted to tell Ma Yi-dum that her mother was alive and take her to see Miss Min-dong. Miss Choi told Miss Min-dong the whole story. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Miss Min-dong thought it was her daughter, but to her shock, it was Gap-soo, who arrived before Ma Yi-dum. He had come to take Miss Min-dong away. Ma Yi-dum arrived but couldn't find her mother. Gap-soo sent her a picture of Miss Min-dong in a coma, demanding a trade, her mother for the North Sang-ho diary. Ma Yi-dum refused because he had already killed her once. It wouldn't be difficult for him to kill Miss Min-dong again. Ma Yi-dum panicked and agreed to get the diary and exchange it for her mother's life. She promised to stall for time and get the diary safely. Gap-soo gave her a rendezvous point in a deep forest. Ma Yi-dum bought time to get Jin-wook to find her mother, but it might be too late. Gap-soo had his men soak Miss Min-dong's room with gasoline, ready to set it on fire. He showed Ma Yi-dum the scene, threatening to burn her mother alive. All he needed was a signal from him. Ma Yi-dum was terrified when she saw her mother in danger. She handed the diary to Gap-soo and went to find her mother. In the distance, she saw a warehouse engulfed in flames. Ma Yi-dum rushed in to save her mother. In the hospital, Miss Min-dong cried because she couldn't remember Ma Yi-dum. Ma Yi-dum showed her a picture of the two of them together, believing she would regain her memories. Miss Choi, overcome with guilt for hiding Ma Yi-dum for 14 years, apologized to her. Ma Yi-dum, though angry, thanked Miss Choi for taking care of her mother all these years. Gap-soo went to see the mayor, demanding he help him. He threatened to expose the mayor's secret daughter if he didn't cooperate. The mayor, with his hands already dirty, had no fear. He told Gap-soo to never threaten him again, and his men threw Gap-soo out like a bag of trash. Gap-soo stood alone on a mountain, looking down at the city. There, he met his beloved North Sang-ho. He apologized and regretted making him suffer. With North Sang-ho gone, he had lost everything. North Sang-ho invited Gap-soo to come with him, and then Gap-soo hanged himself on the mountain. Luckily, Ma Yi-dum and Jin-wook arrived just in time. At the trial, Jin-wook stood up and read out Gap-soo's crimes. Even a lifetime wouldn't be enough to atone for Gap-soo's evil deeds. Miss Kim Min-dong, standing outside the hospital, heard Gap-soo's crimes being read aloud. It was as if something sparked a memory in her. Min-dong went to meet Choi and wanted Choi to tell the story between her and Cho Gap-soo. Choi refused to tell Min-dong's story because she had already suffered too much. Min-dong went to meet the chief prosecutor and heard everything about her past. Min Gi-suk also hoped that Min-dong could live happily for the rest of her life with Yi-dum. Her daughter had endured so much humiliation growing up without her mother. Back in the courtroom, Yi-dum used her sharp logic and presented compelling evidence to make Cho Gap-soo confess. However, if he confessed, he wouldn't be Cho Gap-soo anymore. Cho Gap-soo's angry and terrifying gaze turned towards Yi-dum. At the trial for Cho Gap-soo's rape case against Yi-dum's mother 20 years ago, Jang Jun-mai sat in the courtroom and was interrogated by her son. She continuously insisted that she had done everything under Cho Gap-soo's instructions. When Jin-wook presented both audio and video evidence, along with Baek Sang-ho's diary, Cho Gap-soo started defending himself. He said that he always wanted to sacrifice himself for the good of the world. Cho Gap-soo had never lived for himself. When Cho Gap-soo looked at the people in the courtroom, judging and hating him, he asked himself again, what did he do wrong? He had always worked hard and aimed for the future. Was that a crime? Hearing these words, the judge asked the public prosecutor again. Yi-dum stood up and recounted her mother's story from 20 years ago. Why did the justice system let go of such a cruel criminal? Cho Gap-soo had committed many crimes, but he showed no remorse. If there was any faith left, she believed that the law could shoot Cho Gap-soo with many bullets to soothe the pain of the people. In the end, she requested the death penalty for Cho Gap-soo. The court accepted the request, and Cho Gap-soo couldn't believe his ears. Was he going to be executed? He went crazy in the courtroom, screaming that he couldn't die like that. Kim Min-dong sat in the courtroom, remembering her daughter, Yi-dum. She ran to her, grabbed her hand, and cried uncontrollably. She kept saying, "It's me, Mom. I'm sorry, Yi-dum." Yi-dum embraced her mother and cried too. After 20 years of separation, mother and daughter were finally reunited. Although they hadn't seen each other for a long time, their mother-daughter bond remained unchanged. In prison, Cho Gap-soo met Taejin and Hyun-soo. They didn't even bother to look at him and walked straight past to their grandson. Cho Gap-soo accidentally knocked over the food tray, realizing that he was indeed being punished. Back in the outside world, Yi-dum and her mother went out to eat and have coffee, relaxing and enjoying themselves. After all these years of longing and missing her mother, now was the time for them to make up for lost time. After the trial, everyone had a happier life. Yi-dum returned to the prosecutor's office and sat happily next to Jin-wook. Their hatred for each other from the beginning had disappeared.